Hi, and welcome to the first Pacheco Valley Block Captain meeting via a videotape. I'm Gloria Dunvia-Lynn, and on this video, you will hear an update from some of our steering committee block captains. Sorry we can't meet in person right now, but at least we can connect this way. I hope you're staying healthy and safe and finding ways to use this time that are beneficial to you. It's not an easy time, but I appreciate your efforts in helping us flatten the curve so that we can get back to our new normal sooner than later. As you know, fire season starts this month. May is the start of fire season. And although the present pandemic is at the forefront of everybody's mind, we need to start thinking again about our roles as block captains during fire season. We need to be prepared again to help ourselves and our community stay safe in case of a fire, earthquake, or other disaster. This tape is going to give you a brief overview of what we're up to as a steering committee. Then we hope you will email us some questions so we can best respond to where you're thinking and what your needs are at this time. Then we will schedule a Zoom meeting where we can all be on together, see each other, hear each other, and get those answers to your questions. We'll email you an invite to the Zoom meeting prior to the day and time, and some instructions to help you connect with Zoom. It's really easy to get on and kind of fun. So let me introduce to you the names of people who are on the steering committee. Mike and Kristen McGee, Neil Peterson, Leslie Robinson, Patrick Wood, Julie Upton, Judy Pileski, and myself. And our role is to guide the block captain process as we take next steps to up-level our ability to respond to a disaster. And we're going to start with the first update from Neil Peterson, who is a member with myself and one or two others of the FireWise committee that meets once a month with our fire chief, Bill Tyler. And that committee is headed up by Kay White. So Neil, please update us.
The FireWise committee meets roughly about once a month. Our last meeting was on April 7th by Zoom. Kay White heads that committee, and we often have attendance by Bill Tyler, fire chief for the Novato Fire District. He reported that the fire district is getting fully prepared for the wildfire season as well as their normal operations, and is also working under the crisis of the COVID-19. So all their personnel, when they report to duty, are being checked for any symptoms of flu or any disease prior to reporting for work. The other thing is they're cleaning their equipment daily, deep cleaning it, to make sure it is available for emergencies. Next issue was on Prop C. Of course, as you know, it passed, and the Joint Powers Wildfire Prevention Agency is beginning operations and will get a bridge loan from the county so that it has funds to hire a director of operations in June, so that we will start to see the results of that operation very soon. The picnic that we had planned for this fall is likely to be canceled. Bruce Nadler has spent a lot of time in preparing and planning for that picnic, but we'll probably have to postpone that until a future date. In the meantime, Kay White has asked for any suggestions for some sort of alternative to a public gathering, since that's necessary for us to maintain our certification in 2020 for our Firewise committee. It's a national organization, and they like certain events to occur each year to keep that certification. And finally, on the Firewise, Kay has reminded us to check with the firesafemarin.org website. There's a lot of useful information and articles in there. I was there yesterday, and under the headings of programs, preparedness, and news, there's some interesting stuff about evacuations, among many other things. So I invite you to take a look and see what you can find. On the radios, the walkie-talkie radios, Michael and I are working on ordering those radios and developing the training for the initial group of volunteers that will be the guinea pigs for working out any bugs in training. Michael is waiting for to get shipment from Midland, the manufacturer of the radios. So we'll hear more about that, I'm sure, in soon. We have 13 volunteers. That's probably enough for now. If anybody just can't wait and wants to get involved in that right away, let us know. Otherwise, I think we have enough people to start the initial training. And then later on, we'll certainly invite others to join us in using those radios, because I think they'll be very helpful for the Valley. Final item is, as you may be aware, the National NOAA agency has a system of radio transmitters that broadcast radio condition or weather conditions around the country, and they also have the capability of alerting people in the event of an emergency to such as tornadoes in the Midwest and hurricanes and whatnot. And I've been interested in having those radios as a possible alternative to landlines or cell phone alerts. And the Fire Safe Marin people, as well as the Marin County Office of Emergency Services, is now looking into that and doing some initial testing. And so hopefully later this year we'll hear more about that. But I think that's a very encouraging development as an alternative form of alerts in the event of some major emergency. So that's it for now. Everybody stay safe and stay positive, and we'll talk again.
So we first wanted to start off with some coronavirus updates. It's on everybody's mind. It is the most important thing in everyone's life right now for most. So we just wanted to remind you of things that you should be doing as block captains during this shelter in place that has now been extended through the month of May. We want to continue to remind you that it is important for you to shelter in place. We're role models for our community on what is the best practices in safety, and so it's really important for us to be models for our community in what that looks like. So that means following all of the guidelines that have been issued. We want you to check in with your neighbors as you can, but that does not mean going door to door. That means checking with them on phone calls, Zoom, meeting up with them 10 feet away, maintaining that social distancing and modeling that social distancing while walking around the valley is really important as well. The current health ordinance by the Marin Health and Human Services requires masks over the age of 12. They do say that it is optional for some periods of time. For example, if you're exercising, everyone has a different level of what exercising looks like. For some, that may be going on a walk. For others, that means you're still wearing a mask while you're mountain biking. So it looks different for everyone, and we want to remember that as role models for our community, we do want to encourage positivity and helpfulness and just, I don't know, being accepting of others. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know their health situation. Maybe they cannot wear a mask. You don't know. So we just want to continue to maintain that level of just awesomeness for our neighbors. We did want to remind you that as of last Wednesday, it is required for masks to be worn. We have a couple examples here of what masks can look like. So we have a toddler running around, and although toddlers aren't required to wear masks, nor should they under the age of 2, this is going to be something that he may have after he's a toddler, and we want him to kind of get used to it. So as we're leisurely walking, he wears this little mask, and we'll post the link for how to make these masks down below. But for little guys, it's easier to wrangle them and get them loops around their ears. For us, we don't like the ear loops, so we have elastic that goes around our head. For others, maybe you don't have a crafty bone in your body, and that's okay. A bandana will do when you're out walking around the valley, or not running, not biking necessarily. So just remember to wear masks as appropriate.
If you're a DIYer, down below again, there's links. Anything we're talking about, we're going to try and post links both in the agenda as well as below in the comment section. So
there's also a lot of neighbors, I forgot to mention this is one of mine, but we have a lot of neighbors who have offered to make masks for those who cannot either afford or don't have craftiness in their blood. So we have those people and those contacts for you as well. If that's something you need, just let us know.
As well, just as a heads up on, since Marin health ordinances, the current shelter in place has been extended as well. So we'll post a link to how long that is, because it's now going into May. Okay. Some things that as a block captain you should not be doing. Okay. First and foremost, always never put yourself at risk. Do not become the victim. Okay. And what that means is if your neighbor needs something, that you do not need to break the social distancing rules. Okay. You can stay that 10 feet apart. Also, remember, you're a volunteer, so just don't put yourself in danger. If you feel uncomfortable with anything that's being asked, you do not have to do it, okay? Similarly, if a neighbor is having a medical emergency, okay, call 911. Call your local dispatch. You do not, again, need to make yourself a victim. So that's just some healthy tips as we kind of are juggling through this. I know some people wonder, what is my role as a block captain? And your role is always do what you can and do what's safe. Also, been working on a website that will allow for easy access to basic supplies when talking with your neighbors or for purchasing for yourself. So within the agenda itself, you'll see that what happens is that I've actually got two things. One, an easy button to click if you're looking on your computer. Anything with blue underlined is a link. So there's a supply list there. Also, at the bottom of this agenda, if you have a paper copy, what you'll be able to do is take your phone and then look at that QR code at the bottom. And you'll use the phone to hover over using the camera app to hover over the QR code, and then a link will pop up. You can click that link at the top, and then that will go into the website. On the website, what you'll be able to see is a high-level picture showing what the item is, as well as links to clicking them to have them pop up right into Amazon. I know some of the items are not available right now, such as like the N95 masks, but I didn't want to remove the integrity of this website just for items that aren't available. Similarly, a lot of these items you can tell neighbors they could find elsewhere if they don't want to use Amazon. There's a link at the bottom that shows different places in the valley, not the valley, but in Marin, such as Peony Hardware or Home Depot, that they can also go and price compare. I just wanted to give easy access for anyone when we're talking to them about, hey, these are the items, basic household requirements, and where you can get them. I wanted to give a further deep dive into the resident information form that was recently sent out by the steering committee. So there have been some questions regarding what is the form, privacy and security around the form, and so we wanted to answer those questions in a separate presentation that can be reused by anyone and looked at any time. So this form, what it is from a high level is it creates a consistent way to collect information from residents by the block captains in order to ensure during an emergency that block captains are able to know what's happening with their block.
And that's just good information to have in case of an emergency. If your neighbor needs to get first responders ready to enter your home, they can be there to give that information because you will have already provided that to your block captain.
So this also creates an online platform to allow more of an easy solution to the residents and to the block captains. So just some points to it are easy to share this file with neighbors. It's also easy from neighbors to submit the information. It's easy to then disseminate the information to the appropriate block captain in a way that's legible. An issue with previous paper forms of being just illegible. It's also easy for neighbors to update. And I think that's one of the cornerstones for why this was created, is to ensure that we're getting more timely updates of anything that really is changing in the valley regarding residents.
Especially with residents' health. So we've had an increase in people living in our home, and we would want the first responders and our neighbors, in case they don't know, to make sure if there's a search and rescue event in our building that they find our son. We want them to know that.
So that would be something that we'd want our block captain to know. This form also provides valuable information. We'll get into privacy later, and the fact that, just to start it off, the only people who will be seeing this form is the specific block captain of the neighbor, as well as there's going to be a database manager, as well as in an emergency, a true emergency, where such as an earthquake, where we can't get access to any medical and police or anyone else, and we actually are working together. If an incident command was created, then the incident command would have access to the information only during that time to ensure that anyone who has a medical emergency, the incident command is able to do a search and rescue for those people.
And hold the questions, because we know that we're going to answer them in a few minutes.
I just want to make sure that that's aware. So besides that, this form provides valuable information regarding to the steering committee. This is the only information that will be provided to the steering committee is on the second page of the form regarding education, what people have already been provided from their block captains, any information on have they been trained in where their gas shutoff is, where their water shutoff is. So it's just a pulse point for the steering committee to know places for us to educate going forward. So the next question was, why build the form today? Why are we rolling this out when everything else is going on? And I think with the emergency situation today, that is the reason we are rolling out this form. With COVID-19, we are in an emergency. And so while people are at home in a shelter-in-place environment, they have more of a chance to update a 10-minute document, okay? And this survey takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So what's key about it is that most people are either unable to go to work, or due to layoffs, or just working from home, or they have more time at night because they're not going to a dinner or
we don't go out to dinner anymore. We don't go hang out on the weekends.
So the hope is that this provides an opportunity for people to take the time to fill out this form. Similarly, like I noted earlier, this form was created because many block captains have noted they haven't asked residents to update their forms in at least a year. Some people, most people haven't submitted the resident information forms to their neighbors since we first asked block captains to do this 2.5 years ago. So a lot of this data is outdated and really creates a liability for block captains. It's something that block captains should be able to help with. And with fire season approaching in May, we want to get ahead of getting that information without putting ourselves at risk during the quarantine of potentially getting COVID if we get too close.
I mean, today, as we're recording this, we had our first vegetation fire in our area, right off Nave Drive. So there's no better time than right now to start preparing for the emergencies that we know are in our future.
Yeah. So people have asked how the data is gathered. And so first and foremost, this form, the participation is voluntary. Okay, we are not mandating that block captains ask for this data. We are not mandating that anyone provide the data. Similarly, the only information that would be required to submit the form is going to be the person's name and email address. Okay, if they don't put their first name, last name, and email address, then the form won't allow them to submit. Anything after that is completely optional. To the question on how this information will be shared with block captains, I want to note that at this time, we will not, just because the information comes in, we will not be sharing it with the block captains at this time. The steering committee is discussing and vetting out the process for how we will be sharing the files within Google Drive. This specific file, as Kristen mentioned, only to each block captain, and that has not been finalized. So we ask that each block captain just wait for further information. The data privacy policy that I put out in 2017, okay, for block captains. That policy is also linked below and in the Google repository. And the key to it is, one, the information that is shared with you by residents is only information for you specifically, okay? That information should never be shared with anyone else without express consent from the resident, even to a assistant block captain, without ensuring that the resident knows and is comfortable with that. That includes the HOA board. None of this information should ever be shared even within your own HOA board.
Even the contact information.
No.
There's reasons why, as a board member, people don't want me to have all of their contact information.
And to that note also, if you are contacting the residents in your valley, or in your block, we ask that you're always communicating with them via the BCC function, the blind carbon copy. So that's not the 2 line, not the CC line, but there's a BCC line. And what that means is that no one can see the other email addresses because, again, without express consent, we don't know if every block captain wants other block captains knowing their contact information even, okay? So we just have to be very diligent, yes. And so, to Kristen's point on being diligent, we are entrusted with resident information, with other block captain information, and we don't want to break that trust. So we just ask that any data that's provided to you only be used for what its intended purpose was. And so we are entrusting you to be a good citizen in this.